The Travel Research Institute arranged for Ye Xiaoxiao to travel to ancient times. In order to ensure his comfortable survival, intelligent robots were specially arranged for him, and he also brought a space ring with abundant materials, weapons, and medicinal herbs. However, the passage was abnormal, and the planned attire changed to soul-piercing. The space ring is missing. Ye Xiaoxiao wore it on the granddaughter of the Prime Minister of the same name. The original owner was a great injustice. He fought hard to save the Queen of Jin on the battlefield, but was taken credit for by the small medical woman beside him. The King of Jin dotes on the little medical woman and abuses her body and heart towards the original owner. After the female protagonist travels through time, she turns the tide and kills the King of Jin and the White Lotus Little Doctor.Strive to rescue the Prime Minister's family. During this process, it gradually caught the attention of the war god three princes. Ye Xiaoxiao and the intelligent robot are searching for their bodies together, hoping to retrieve the space ring. And suddenly, in the mansion of the god of war, there was an additional unconscious body with a strange ring on it. Chapter 1. Crossing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the early hours of the morning, you knew that the Emperor Taishan was not executed by me, so why did you blame me? A mournful and indignant voice came from the firewood room of the Jin Prince's mansion. Ye Xiaoxiao stood straight in the firewood room, dressed in dirty attire. But there was a poisonous sore on that supposed handsome face. The yellow liquid flowed out, and the whole person was embarrassed and ugly. She trembled and screamed, looking incredulously at her husband in front of her. Si Xiaoxiao looked at her contemptuously in the early morning and said, Ye Xiaoxiao, it's your blessing to be able to take the blame on Ru'er. After all, you have taken the throne of her queen. Think about all the disgusting things you have done, this is the retribution you deserve. Ye Xiaoxiao was so angry that he trembled all over. Si Xiao, you were wrong. You were wrong. It was me who saved you back then. When you were at Chifeng Pass, your eyes were not good, and I carried you out. With a little medicine, I saved you. The position of the queen is already your promise to me. Ye Xiaoxiao's eyes were full of blood, and his whole body trembled. Bitch! You're still lying here. Back then, it was Ru'er who saved me. With just your medical skills, you saved me. I won't believe your lies. Since marrying you into the house, I've been deeply sorry for Ru'er. Every day you spend in the palace, I feel deeply disgusted. Now it's okay, the Prime Minister's mansion has fallen. I don't have to worry anymore. Your good days are also coming to an end. You take responsibility for Ru'er this time, let's see you forgive me. After the man finished speaking, he looked at the woman with disgust and spat out a sentence. Look at your face, do you deserve to be the mistress of the palace? You're really disgusting. As he spoke, he extended his foot and kicked Ye Xiaoxiao hard. Ye Xiaoxiao struggled and was suddenly kicked to the ground. She lay on the ground, looking at the man in front of her in despair. The sadness and anger in my heart are indescribable. My face, clearly. She said halfway before stopping. My heart was entangled in an extremely bitter emotion. Tell him, is it useful? Her face was poisoned by his beloved Lin Xiaoru. He certainly wouldn't believe it. Her sad chest felt like a stone had been crushed. Why? Why do they do this? A few years ago, during the Battle of Chifeng Pass, she rescued Si Xiao from 10,000 corpses. It's his life-saving benefactor. If it weren't for her, he would have died long ago. And Lin Xiaoru is a maid who sold herself to bury her father, whom she saved many years ago. She regards Lin Xiaoru as her best sisters and tells her everything. Unexpectedly, Lin Xiaoru was ambitious and secretly went to find Si Xiaoming. Fake one's own credit. Si Xiaoxiao always thought that the person who saved him back then was Lin Xiaowan. Over the years, the two of them have humiliated themselves in every way, and she has endured it all because of her admiration for Cizeo. And now, the Prime Minister's office has collapsed, and she no longer has any support. A few days ago, Lin Xiaoru treated the Crown Prince with a misdiagnosis that resulted in his death. In order to save Lin Xiaoru, Si Xiaoru chose to let her take responsibility for him in the early morning. Ye Xiaoxiao's face was covered in tears. Substitution for sin. She will die. He knew she would die. Death to the Crown Prince is a capital offense, a capital offense. Even if you forget about what happened back then, I am your legitimate wife. Are you just watching me die like this? A cruel smile appeared at the corner of Si's mouth in the early morning. He crouched down and looked at the ugly woman in front of him, saying word by word, if you don't die, it's Ru Er who will die. So, you have to die. After speaking, he stood up without mercy. Beat me, the worse it gets, the less the Emperor and Crown Prince will argue. The man handed the whip to the servant and left without looking back. Lu, the butler, picked up his whip with a grim smile and continued to whip Ye Xiaoxiao's back. Oh, what about Miss Qianjin? She's not trembling under my whip. No one in the Prime Minister's mansion can save you. Huh, it's really satisfying. Oh, you know what? Your eldest cousin is about to be executed, and your grandfather, the former Prime Minister, is also going to be sent to Ningguta. You deserve it. Bah! Steward Lu cursed while whipping Ye Xiaoxiao. Ye Xiaoxiao grabbed the soil with both hands fiercely, and his nails were covered in blood. Thinking of my grandfather who loves me the most, in his 70s, he has to walk so far with shackles, and there are so many people along the way who want his life. Thinking of this, Ye Xiaoxiao's heart twisted into a ball. And King Jin, why doesn't he believe in himself? Hiss, it hurts so much. Ye Xiaoxiao felt pain all over her body. There was a lewd voice beside him. I won't die, will I? It's just right to die. Give the Crown Prince a corpse and explain it to him. Oh, before I die, let me play with two. One hand is caressing oneself randomly. Didn't she participate in the Research Institute's time travel experiment? Is this successful? Ye Xiaoxiao suddenly opened his eyes and grabbed the hand. With a click sound, Butler Lu let out a mournful scream, and one hand had already been broken. Wipe. Dare to touch me, I'll see you to the King of Hell. Ye Xiaoxiao stood up, lifted his long leg, and kicked Lu Butler's chest hard. Ye Xiaoxiao lifted her head, the corners of her mouth slightly raised, and her phoenix eyes shone brightly. She continued to kick Steward Lu hard in the chest. Steward Lu was kicked to the ground, his head hit the wall, rolled his eyes, and passed out directly. Ye Xiaoxiao clapped her hands. Memories surge into my mind. It is the memory of the original owner. The original owner was originally the legitimate daughter of Ye Xiaoxiao, who also had a high-ranking and influential grandfather, Prime Minister Kai. A few years ago, she was naughty. In the early morning, she secretly disguised herself as a man and went to the battlefield with her cousin because of her admiration for the King of Jin. At that time, King Jin was the commander.In. chief, and everyone said he had died on the battlefield, but she didn't believe it and searched through the corpses of tens of thousands of people for 3 days and 3 nights. I found Si Zhao and walked all night, carrying him step by step to a thatched cottage 10 miles away. With Lin Xiaoru's teaching of basic medical skills and an unwavering determination, he finally saved the King of Jin. The King of Jin's eyes were damaged and he couldn't see clearly, but he still excitedly held Ye Xiaoxiao's hand and said, I want to grant you the position of queen, tell me where to find you. Ye Xiaoxiao shyly said, Shangshu Mansion. When she returned home, she eagerly waited for him to propose, and even told her grandfather that she would not marry unless she was the King of Jin. Her maternal grandfather doted on her greatly, and at that time, he asked the emperor for the decree of marriage. She finally waited for him to marry her. But he also married Lin Xiaoru, whom he regarded as his little sister. Originally, after listening to the story she told herself, Lin Xiaoru took the initiative to find the King of Jin when he returned. The King of Jin always thought that the person who saved him on the battlefield back then was Lin Xiaoru. Married her, but despised her to the extreme, and cared for Lin Xiaoru in every way, treating her as a precious treasure. When memories surged, Ye Xiaoxiao was already gritting his teeth in anger. This Lin Xiaoru, what kind of top-level White Lotus is she? And that blind King of Jin. How hateful. At this moment, a voice came out of my mind. Help me, let him know the truth, and also save my grandfather's family. Ye Xiaoxiao knew that this was the last wish of the body owner, so she nodded fiercely. A comforting voice came from my mind. Thank you. Then that consciousness dissipated invisibly. At the same time, in the room of Lin Xiaoru, the concubine of the King of Jin. Lin Xiaoru snuggled up in Zhao's arms, her beautiful little face full of coquettishness. Zhao, thank you for all this you have done for me. Xi looked at Lin Xiaoru in the early morning with deep affection in his eyes and said, Xiaoru, what word of gratitude do you say between us? As early as the moment you memorized me from the corpses of 10,000 people back then, I swore that our company could die for you in this lifetime in the early morning. When Lin Xiaoru heard Xi mention the past in the early morning, a dark light flashed in her eyes. She spoke in a worried tone and said softly, It's just that I've wronged Sister Ye, after all, Sister Ye is kind to me. Ye Xiaoxiao snorted coldly and said, What do you care about that slut? Didn't you say that she often abuses you in the Shangshu mansion? If she dares to do this to you, I will let her die. There was a fierce light in Xi's eyes in the early morning. But after all, she is your queen. It's okay if you don't mention this, Ru'er. He looked down at Lin Xiaoru with deep affection in his eyes. She took your queen's position with a decree. I haven't calculated this yet. There's only one princess in my heart, who carried me for more than 10 miles that year. It's you, Xiaoru. Xi's voice in the early morning was soft as water. With a whimper, Lin Xiaoru blushed and buried her head in Zhao's arms. Chapter 2. Mysterious Helper. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xi held Lin Xiaoru in his arms and kissed her hair in the early hours of the morning. I had someone beat her, and the Emperor Taizun lost his life in our mansion. If we don't beat her hard, I'm afraid it will be difficult for the crown prince to calm down, he said. I understand. Lin Xiaoru lowered her head, her eyes flowing with pleasure. Ye Xiaoxiao, I didn't expect you to end up like this today. Miss, now you are just a prisoner who takes responsibility for me. She looked up and said, Sister Ye and I also got to know each other. I want to go see her. What is she doing? She's a dying person, don't defile you. Lin Xiaoru pouted and said, That's not possible. After all, it was Sister Ye who picked me up. I need to be grateful. You don't have to worry, I'll come and wait for me here. Xi released her early in the morning and said, Okay, it's still my little Ru who is kind. Lin Xiaoru smiled and left the room, walking towards the direction of the firewood room. She needs to see Ye Xiaoxiao's miserable situation no matter what. How can she not go and see it? In the woodshed, Ye Xiaoxiao finished sorting through the information in her mind and only then discovered a child dressed in gorgeous clothes lying in the corner of the woodshed. Ye Xiaoxiao slowly walked forward and tried the child's breathing, only to find that there was no breathing or heartbeat left. This should be the Emperor Taizun who was misdiagnosed and died by Lin Xiaoru. Ye Xiaoxiao's eyes sparkled with a dim light. They want to pin this charge on themselves. How can she make them go as planned? At this moment, she heard footsteps coming from outside and quickly covered the unconscious Lu Guan household with straw. Pretend to be beaten unconscious and lie on the ground. Lin Xiaoru arrived at the woodshed and looked at Ye Xiaoxiao on the ground. She crouched down and a malicious smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Sister Ye, the eldest lady of the Shangshu mansion and the treasure of the Prime Minister's mansion, what's going on? Your luxurious clothing and food are no match for a little finger of mine now. The King of Jin loves me so much that if you take responsibility for me, you will die. The King of Jin will never know the truth. Lin Xiaoxiao lifted her head and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, saying, Lin Xiaoru, I treat you well. It was me who brought you home, who didn't return home. Why did you treat me like this? Lin Xiaoru's eyes burst with strong jealousy, and her tone was sharp. Why? Why do you say so? You have been favored by everyone in the Shangshu mansion. As for me, I am just a medical woman. They have never seen me in person. I just can't stand the way you have everything. I always think that one day I will drag you into the quagmire. Lin Xiaoru spoke happily, but unexpectedly, Ye Xiaoxiao extended her arm and wrapped it around her neck, tightly gripping it. This kind of person who repays kindness with revenge and cannot see the kindness of others should go to 18 levels of hell. Lin Xiaoru's neck was getting tighter and tighter, and a terrifying expression appeared in her eyes. Let go. Let go. I, King of Jin. Ye Xiaoxiao wiped his face with his hand, and some yellow thick water fell into his palm. Ye Xiaoxiao's face was poisoned by Lin Xiaoru, which made her look ugly. She wiped the yellow pus in her hand directly onto Lin Xiaoru's face and said, I'll also let you taste the taste of disfigurement. Lin Xiaoru's eyes rolled in fear, and Ye Xiaoxiao tightened Lin Xiaoru's neck tightly until she also fainted. She cleaned up Lin Xiaoru completely, and also cleaned up Lu Butler under the firewood. Directly stacked the two people together. After finishing all of this, she patted her hands and the corners of her mouth curled up, saying, Xiaoxiao, let me give you a taste of wearing a green hat. Turning his head to look at the Emperor Taishan on the ground, he touched his almost cold body and underwent a full body examination. My gaze flickered. Finally, she picked up the imperial grandson and walked straight out. In the early morning, Si saw that Lin Xiaoru was not returning and was about to come to the firewood shed to find her. But Ye Xiaoxiao swaggered out holding the emperor's grandson. Si Xiaoxiao frowned and sternly scolded, Ye Xiaoxiao. Where are you going to escape? Ye Xiaoxiao spat out 2 words toward Xiaoxiao. Dog. Pooh. Si was furious in the early morning and came to Ye Xiaoxiao's face, punching him. Ye Xiaoxiao dodged by. But in the next moment, I was choked by Xiaoxiao. Damn it. You shouldn't have lived. If you had died earlier, you would have taken responsibility for Ru'er. Ye Xiaoxiao was choked out of breath. I harbored a deep hatred in my heart, I really overestimated myself. Although in modern times, she excels in both medicine and poison, and is still a judo champion. But there is still a gap between modern kung fu and ancient kung fu. Bitch. Today I will bring you to justice here to calm the crown prince's anger. Xiaoxiao stared at his red eyes and exerted all his strength in his hands. At this moment, Xi suddenly felt a pain in his lower body, as if someone had kicked him. He let out a hiss and released Ye Xiaoxiao in pain. It was particularly painful there. Xi covered it in the early morning and looked at Ye Xiaoxiao with angry eyes. At this moment, Ye Xiaoxiao also looked confused. She was almost knocked out by being pinched just now. I really don't have the strength to kick him. What's going on? Immediately after, she heard a loud bang, and Xi's left eye circle turned blue in the early morning. Then, the right eye circle also turned blue. Then, seeing Xi covering his stomach in the early morning, his eyes showed an incredible expression. Ye Xiaoxiao, what kind of magic are you using? God bless me, I must have accumulated virtue and done good deeds, and God has come to help me. Ye Xiaoxiao thought and blinked at Si Xiaoxiao, yes, I have cast a spell on you. You should go and see your beloved one. She is in the firewood room. Taking advantage of the days in the early hours of the morning, Ye Xiaoxiao let out a gust of wind under his feet, holding on to the crown prince and fleeing. Xi was worried about Lin Xiaoru in the early morning and immediately ran towards the firewood shed. The guards in the mansion are like a forest, and even Ye Xiaoxiao cannot escape. Ye Xiaoxiao did not escape. She brought the Emperor Taishan to her lawn Fengguang. Although this is the residence of the queen, Xi never comes in the early hours of the morning and comes with a scolding. The original owner wept alone night and night. Ye Xiaoxiao placed the crown prince on the ground. Sitting in front of the mirror, looking at the person in the mirror. This face has extremely beautiful facial features, except for a huge pustule on the right face, which looks extremely ugly. This is the poison that Lin Xiaoru has given herself. According to her methods, this is quite easy to solve. But what about her space ring? She searched her whole body up and down, but there was nothing there. She is the most stunning medical genius of the 30th century, proficient in both Chinese and Western medicine, and was selected to conduct experiments on time and space travel. The laboratory specially prepared a space ring for her. There is over 100 square meters of space inside, not only equipped with sophisticated operating rooms and medicine rooms, but also various modern items that are not needed. The director told her, "You must be fully prepared when you go there, so that you can survive well. Come on, Ollie." Result. No more. Are you joking? Ye Xiaoxiao widened his eyes and really wanted to howl up to the sky. Laboratory, you're a prank. Well, that ring was worn on your own body, so you don't have it now. A crisp voice with a hint of immaturity rang out abruptly. Ye Xiaoxiao looked at the source of the sound. But I found out there. Nothing. Her cold hair instantly stood up, her heart was beating extremely fast, and her fingertips trembled. See the ghost. Who is it? Chapter 3. The Disappearance of the Crown Prince. You are listening at novel full.audio. At this moment, the originally empty place slowly revealed the figure of a child. It looks like a girl of 7 or 8 years old, with 2 braids tied in her horns and a pair of big and round eyes. Well, let me introduce myself. I am a biomimetic intelligent robot equipped by the Traverse Research Institute to assist you in surviving better in this era. The little girl's crisp voice rang out. Recalling the strange incident that King Jin had just experienced, Ye Xiaoxiao spoke up and asked, "So back then, you hit him?" The little girl nodded and said, "My skin is made of special meteorites that can interfere with the refraction of light, which means I can be invisible." Bull. Ye Xiaoxiao couldn't help but clap her hands. What other skills do you have? The little girl showed a proud expression on her face and said, "I know martial arts. Look at me." She walked to the open space and performed 2 aerial flips, a 360-degree flip. Suddenly, with a loud bang, she fell to the ground. It turned out that I stumbled over the crown prince on the ground. Oh, I don't seem to be able to get up anymore. I've broken a bone, and the material is not very sturdy, the little girl said awkwardly. Ye Xiaoxiao. Is that all? A look of disappointment couldn't help but appear on his face. What other use can you have besides being invisible? The little girl's face showed an awkward expression, and after thinking for a long time, she finally spoke slowly, "Well, companionship. What I focus on is companionship. It's okay, don't worry about me, I can quickly self-repair." The smart little girl waved her hand indifferently. The material of this body is like this. In order to maintain softness and stretchability, it may sometimes break easily, but this material will self-repair and quickly heal. This is not a problem. By the way, my name is Jizi, the girl said. Ye Xiaoxiao frowned and said, "Jizi. This name reminds me of a villain in a certain novel." "Alright, I'll call you Xiaoji." The little girl nodded and said, "Sure. How did you get through it? Where's my body?" Ye Xiaoxiao still really wanted the space ring she was wearing. Xiaoji thought for a moment and said, "I traveled with you. Originally, we were all wearing clothes, but for some special reason, your soul detached from your body and attached to this person. I think your body must also be nearby, and we can look for it. Ye Xiaoxiao's eyes were full of anxiety, her body wouldn't decay, would it? Crossing the research institute is really a pit, such mistakes can also occur. Perhaps the resentment on this person's body is too strong. When traveling, their soul and body are already unstable, so you are attached to this body, Xiaoji guessed. Ye Xiaoxiao held on to his forehead, really wanting to howl up to the sky. Hey! Now I need to think about how to find my body. Before he could figure out a way to find his body, a thunderous roar echoed through the Jin prince's mansion. In the early hours of the morning, Si discovered the bodies of Lin Xiaoru and Lu Butler stacked together in the firewood room. A basin of cold water woke up two people. Lin Xiaoru opened her eyes and saw her naked appearance. She covered her ears and screamed, tears rolling down her face. She's dirty. Put this lowly slave to death by Ling Qi. Si Zhou pointed at Lu, the trembling butler kneeling on the ground, and roared angrily. Steward Lu's soul was gone and he said, I'm not, I don't know anything. Si took off his coat in the early morning and draped it over Lin Xiaoru's body, with anger and heartache in his eyes. It must be that slut who did it, I must make her die hard. Si Xiaoming clenched his fists, his eyes bloodshot, and said fiercely. Lin Xiaoru was sobbing, with a small face that I couldn't help but pity. It's Sister Yi, she's jealous of me. Jealous of me getting your love from King Jin. She comes from a high family, and I'm just a medical woman. She's unbalanced. Si picked up Lin Xiaoru in the early morning and said, how about coming from a high family? You are a medical woman, but you once saved me with your medical skills. You are the most prestigious woman in this mansion. I also want you to become the most prestigious woman in this world. He ordered the guards around him, search the entire mansion. Find that despicable woman for me, and I'll have to deal with Ling Qi. Yes, the guard replied. Search the entire government. Soon, Lan Fengju was surrounded and unable to escape. Ye Xiaoxiao was pinned to the ground by several guards. Xiao Ji remained invisible. Si walked into the room with Lin Xiaoru in his arms in the early morning. Lin Xiaoru's eyes gleamed with hatred. Sister Yi, do you deserve your conscience for treating me like this? Ye Xiaoxiao curled her lips and smiled, oh, you're dressed now. How does housekeeper Lu taste? How does it compare to the King of Jin? Ye Xiaoxiao. You slut. Si shouted loudly in the early hours of the morning, slapping Ye Xiaoxiao's face with a gloomy expression and saying, even if you plan on ruin until you die, how dare you? Ye Xiaoxiao was hit with her head tilted to one side, and anger flashed in her eyes. Looking up with a fierce gaze at Si Xiaomei, he said, calculation. Who is calculating who? You two want me to take responsibility. I can't fight back yet. After speaking, she smiled brightly and said, it's really nice to see your beloved woman lying naked with another man, ha ha ha. Bastard. Si Xiaoxiao punched Ye Xiaoxiao in the face again in the early morning. He was so angry that his temples trembled. Thinking of Xiaoru lying with that butler Lu makes him tremble with anger. It's all this bitch. He shouted angrily, you don't have to wait for the crown prince to punish you. Today, I will execute you Ling Qi, guard Zhou. Si extended his hand early in the morning. Close guard Zhou Fengguang's eyes sparkled as he immediately handed a sharp knife to Si Zhou. The knife pressed against Ye Xiaoxiao's face, and soon a stream of blood flowed out. The guards holding onto Ye Xiaoxiao felt a pain somewhere and their hands relaxed a bit. Ye Xiaoxiao's eyes flickered as she knew it must have been Xiaoji's move. Her body suddenly became much softer, like a loach escaping from the hands of several guards. Seized the knife from Si Zheo's hand. Shaped like a cunning rabbit, it instantly bounced towards Lin Xiaoru's side and the knife hit her heart. Lin Xiaoxiao raised his head and looked at Ye Xiaoxiao with a proud smile, saying, King Jin, come and have someone catch me. Be careful not to kill your beloved child with a single blow. Ye's eyes burst with brilliance in the early morning. Lin Xiaoxiao, dare you? Do you dare me? Lin Xiaoxiao first took a knife and scratched Lin Xiaoru's delicate face, then pressed it against her neck. Lin Xiaoru's face turned pale with fear. Sitao looked at Lin Xiaoru, who was so frightened, with intense concern in his eyes. Let them leave. Lin Xiaoxiao held Lin Xiaoru hostage. Ye gave Lin Xiaoxiao a deep glance in the early morning. When did this woman become so bold? She remembers being cautious and trying to please herself after getting married, and not daring to provoke Lin Xiaoru. What's going on now? His eyes flickered, and to ensure Lin Xiaoru's safety, he ordered, you go. Prepare a carriage for me. Lin Xiaoxiao said. Get ready. Ye Xiaoxiao suppressed his anger and spoke up, asking the woman to hold on to it. Wait for him to rescue Ru'er, he will definitely break this woman into pieces. Lin Xiaoxiao got on the prepared carriage, pushed Lin Xiaoru hard, and then rode the carriage towards the crown prince's mansion in the original owner's memory. Chase. Ye gave an order in the early morning and quickly went to see Lin Xiaoru lying on the ground. He was worried and said, Ru'er. Prince. The two embraced passionately. Prince, it's not good, the body of Emperor Taizuan is missing. A guard suddenly reported. What? Ye was furious in the early morning. The body of Emperor Taizun is missing, how can we explain it to the crown prince's mansion? Search. Even if you dig 3 feet deep, you need to find it for me. Chapter 4. Self-Rescue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ye Xiaoxiao drove his carriage rapidly on the streets of the capital city. The direction is exactly the crown prince's mansion. Lin Xiaoru gained fame in the capital due to rumors of saving the dying King of Jin, and everyone said her medical skills were amazing. After hearing about it, the crown prince sent his son, who had a cough at home and had not recovered for a long time, to the residence of the Prince of Jin. I wanted Lin Xiaoru to recuperate, but during the process of treating Emperor Taizun, Lin Xiaoru didn't know what was going on, and he lost his breath. Ye was shocked in the early morning and wanted to impose this charge on Ye Xiaoxiao in order to prevent Lin Xiaoru from being punished by the crown prince. He delayed reporting this matter to the crown prince due to concerns. Ye Xiaoxiao went to the crown prince's mansion to take the initiative and remove this charge from himself. Uncover the conspiracy between Xixiao and Lin Xiaoru. Bitch! Stop! A shout came from behind. Ye Xiaoxiao turned around and saw Zhou Fengguang, the head of the guard in the early morning, chasing after him with a few people behind him. Watching the carriage behind get faster and faster. There is still some way to go from the crown prince's mansion, but she is about to be caught up with soon. Lin Xiaoxiao's eyebrows and eyes were tinged with a hint of anxiety. Damn it! If you don't stop, believe it or not, if I catch you, I'll send you to the flower tower to show everyone how embarrassed the granddaughter of the prime minister's mansion is. Zhou Fengguang, a 7-foot-tall man, kept cursing at the back. He was just addicted to his mouth, and the thought of the once lofty young lady being chased so badly by him made him feel a surge of pleasure in his heart. The person that the prince likes is the person that Zhou Fengguang wants to protect, and the person that the prince dislikes is also the person that Zhou Fengguang dislikes. The prince hates this woman, so he wants her to sink into the mud. Stop. If you don't stop, don't blame me for being impolite. A woman like you should be scolded by thousands of people riding on horses. A loud voice echoed through the street, and everyone's eyes turned to the pursuing group. At this time, the second floor of the street tea house. Damn it, third master, it's that slutty Zhou Fengguang. He's cursing again. A man in green clothes angrily said from the window seat. Across from him sat a man in a purple robe, with a handsome and stunning face that was as sharp as a knife. His nose was high and straight, and his eyes were deeply furrowed into his temples. He exuded a strong and imposing aura, exuding a fierce aura. He held the tea cup, his eyes fixed, quietly watching the few pieces of tea leaves falling on the bowl. "Ma Dan, Zhou Fengguang, last time I scolded me, I didn't think of any words to scold back then. I only thought of words when I got back. I've been holding back for several days, it's really infuriating me," the man in green said angrily. "Qinglong, don't worry too much," said Si Qinyuan as he put down his teacup. His voice was deep and powerful, with a hint of authority. Upon seeing Zhou Fengguang, Qinglong became angry and lifted the curtains to look outside. Pooh, 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 who did he curse at? On the street, Ye Xiaoxiao galloped his horse, occasionally looking back. Oh my God, that Zhou Fengguang was chasing after him more and more urgently, and he was about to catch up with him. And Zhou Fengguang's scolding became increasingly unpleasant. It's hard for Ye Xiaoxiao to imagine how a man could understand the vulgar words of these street women and speak so fluently. She turned around and shouted to the back, "You're pretending to be crazy, but you need to protect yourself. The banker needs you to fertilize. Zhou Feng's nose is not his nose, his eyes are not his eyes." Qinglong was overjoyed. When he heard someone scold Zhou Fengguang, he felt so happy that he couldn't help but take a few more glances at the woman and said, "Third Lord, he seems to be pursuing the daughter of Ye Xiang, the precious granddaughter of the Kai Xiang family. Now that's so miserable, his face looks disfigured." Upon hearing Kai Xiang, Si Qinyuan's eyebrows and eyes twitched. He didn't have a deep impression of Ye Xiaoxiao, only knowing that Kai Xiang was extremely doting on him when he was around, and Kai Qichuan also loved this sister very much. I even joked with him multiple times about promising him this sister. He refused. Later I heard that she married the King of Jin. Si Qinyuan lightly tapped his hand on the table, and for the sake of the face of the Kai family, he gave her a hand. The hand with distinct joints picked up the teacup and lifted the curtain. Use your hands hard and wave your hand downwards to sprinkle. Countless fragments of porcelain flew down. Zhou Fengguang and all the horses under his command fell to the ground and could no longer get up. A wail sounded. Upon hearing the shouting, Ye Xiaoxiao looked back and immediately felt happy. Zhou Fengguang and his group's horses fell to the ground, and they all got up in a state of embarrassment. You can still see Zhou Fengguang pinching his waist and cursing. These people can no longer catch up with her. As intelligent as her, she immediately knew that someone had secretly helped her. Looking up like a rhinoceros in my heart. In an instant, his eyes collided with a pair of deep eyes. Ye Xiaoxiao took a cold breath. What a beautiful face it was. Handsome, to the extreme. She looks good, she looks better than any other celebrity she has ever been a fan of. Temperament is also unique. Ye Xiaoxiao could hear her heart pounding. She immediately smiled and warmly waved her hand to the person upstairs as a gesture of gratitude. Si Qinyuan was flashed by those sparkling eyes. Ye Xiaoxiao was about to say something. The curtain closed with a loud bang, and the good-looking person disappeared from sight. A wave of disappointment surged in my heart. Oh, why didn't something fall from above and hit my head? It's okay, it's important to hurry. Drive. The carriage raced on the street. Upstairs. Qinglong was about to clap his hands and laugh. Third Master, you're amazing. Look at Zhou Fengguang's cowardly behavior, Si Qinyuan suddenly covered his chest, his face instantly turning pale, and a trace of blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. San Yi, what's wrong? Did you have another illness? Qinglong saw this and stood up anxiously. San Yi has a highly toxic substance on his body, and even after many years of searching with doctors, he has not been given any attention. Doctors who have seen him say that San Yi only has 3 months left in his lifespan. Thinking of this, Qinglong felt a pang of sadness in his heart. Si Qinyuan swallowed a mouthful of blood, took out his handkerchief, and wiped the corner of his mouth, saying, "It's okay." Qinglong was so anxious that tears were about to fall down. "Third master, let's go to the crown prince's mansion first and ask for a detoxifying herb to save the situation. Jiedu grass is a divine herb that can detoxify as a tribute from foreign countries. Mild poisoning can be cured by taking the poisonous herb. Although the poison in Sanye cannot be cured, it can still be relieved for a moment and a half. There are several plants in each prince's mansion. The detoxification herb in Sanye's mansion has long been used up. This time they came out not only to find any folk doctors who could detoxify the third lord, but also to borrow a few detoxifying herbs from various princes' mansions. Can extend some lifespan. Si Qinyuan covered his chest, endured the severe pain, and nodded slightly. Qinglong stood up and supported Si Qinyuan downstairs. "Go downstairs, get on the carriage, and head towards the crown prince's mansion." Ye Xiaoxiao quickly arrived at the crown prince's mansion. When the servant reported, the reception was the crown princess, and Ye Xiaoxiao briefly explained the situation. The crown princess's face first showed a look of shock. "Brother Feng has an accident." Immediately afterwards, my heart was filled with joy. The crown prince Si Runfeng is 5 years old this year and was born to the crown prince's concubine. The crown princess has yet to appear. The crown princess's voice was urgent and she said, "This matter is too big. I will go tell the crown prince. Please wait here for a moment." After speaking, she slowly entered the inner room. "The crown prince is in the study, please ask her to wait." Princess Jin only said that Fengguang had an accident during the diagnosis and treatment process, but didn't say what happened specifically. In her opinion, the longer the delay, the less likely the rescue is. Therefore, she waited until the crown prince in the study finished dealing with the situation before going in and discussing it. Ye Xiaoxiao waited for a long time and was very anxious. The horses of the guards led by Zhou Fengguang were injured and sent back by him. He alone found a horse dealer and bought a horse, heading towards the direction of the crown prince's mansion. When he arrived, the crown princess had just informed the crown prince of the matter. The crown prince came out of the house in panic and said, "What happened to brother Feng in the Jin prince's mansion?" Upon seeing this, Zhou Fengguang immediately knelt down on the ground and said, "Tell the crown prince that the crown prince had been playing well in the mansion, but this witch intervened and insisted on treating the crown prince's illness." Zhou Fengguang pointed at Lin Xiaoxiao standing there with anger in his eyes, saying, "I didn't expect that the crown prince passed away under her treatment." Chapter 5. Repayment of Life. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The crown prince couldn't help but shake his body when he heard his son pass away. Lin Xiaoxiao stared angrily at Zhou Fengguang, whose tongue was full of lotus flowers. Zhou Go was truly one of the dogs under Si Zhao's command. Knowing that the crown prince was handled by Lin Xiaoru, this guy was filled with righteous indignation and acted as if it were real in order to frame trouble for himself. It's a pity not to be an actor. Zhou Fengguang continued, "I was sent by the King of Jin to catch this poisonous woman and go back. This poisonous woman came to the crown prince's mansion to distort the truth. The crown prince must not believe anything she says." The crown prince's gaze suddenly shot towards Lin Xiaoxiao. His offspring withered, and the queen never became pregnant. It wasn't until she married the concubine that she gave birth to the unique seedling of Fengguang. She usually treasures a lot, so why the concubine also received news that she came out with disheveled clothes. After learning of his son's death, he began to wail and cry until he fainted. The crown prince's body trembled, and the hatred in his eyes made Ye Xiaoxiao shiver all over. He gritted his teeth and roared, "It was you who killed my Fengguang. I'm going to kill you." The crown prince looked crazy and rushed towards Ye Xiaoxiao. Ye Xiaoxiao became anxious and shouted, "Crown prince, please listen to me. This is not the case. This week the dog came at the right time." Just as she was about to present the situation to the crown prince, he came and disrupted her rhythm. Now the crown prince is not at the right time to listen to explanations. The crown princess held on to the crown prince and said, "The matter is not yet clear. Please remain calm, crown prince." The crown prince's eyes turned red and he said, "I'm calm. Have I been calm? My son is gone." He disregarded the obstruction of the crown princess and swung his 9-pointed whip fiercely towards Ye Xiaoxiao. Ye Xiaoxiao felt a chill in his heart, and his body was low, hoping to snatch the sharp whip. The sound of the whip breaking through the air came, and Ye Xiaoxiao closed her eyes. In the end, it was discovered that the whip did not fall on him. She opened her eyes. One hand grasped the whip swung by the crown prince. Si Qinyuan stood in front of Ye Xiaoxiao's side, tall and secure. He stood straight, his hand holding the whip bulging with veins. He threw it to the ground and said, "Big brother, I haven't seen Feng's body yet. Why don't you check it out first?" Ye Xiaoxiao looked at the familiar face, her heart racing. "Beautiful man, it's you, you saved my life again." The crown prince's face changed, and he had always felt a sense of fear towards this third brother. If it weren't for the low status of the Three Drops mother consort, I'm afraid her position as the crown prince would also be his. Fortunately, due to the fault of his mother's consort, Si Qinyuan was unable to inherit the throne. Since the age of 12, he has been sent by his father to fight in the border areas. He repeatedly made military achievements and was appointed as the god of war of the Great Xia Kingdom. The crown prince didn't know why third brother wanted to protect this person, but he spoke up and still gave some face. "Third brother, this is between me and the King of Jin. I think we should solve it ourselves." Zhou Fengguang immediately stepped forward and said, "Third prince, I don't know. This slut has caused the death of the crown prince. What kind of deep hatred she has towards the crown prince. It must be avenged. Third prince, please don't stop me." Zhou Fengguang thought to himself that it would be best for His Highness the Crown Prince to kill this slut to save trouble. Nonsense. It's clear that Lin Xiaoxiao ruined the Crown Prince's grandson. You want me to take responsibility? I came to the Crown Prince's mansion to explain the real situation. Zhou Shiwei, your ability to reverse black and white is really impressive. I think you're really talented as a guard. I have someone at the stage, should I recommend you to go? Zhou Fengguang. What? Are you mocking me as an actor? Qing Long, who was following Si Qinyuan, said, Zhou Fengguang, Qing Long racked his brain and came up with these words. His head was starting to ache, but it was really satisfying to scold him. The Crown Prince glanced at Zhou Fengguang and then at Ye Xiaoxiao, unsure for a moment who to trust. Si Qinyuan spoke up and said, Big brother, why don't you go to my fifth brother's place to figure things out? The Crown Prince thought for a moment and realized that this is the reason. So they arrived at the Jin Prince's mansion with their group. Si was busy searching for the body of the Crown Prince in the early morning, sweating profusely from anxiety. Upon seeing Ye Xiaoxiao return, he stepped forward and slapped him, saying, You poisonous woman, where did you put the body of the Crown Prince? Ye Xiaoxiao spat out a mouthful of blood and stared coldly at Si Xiaoming. Why don't you think about how to explain it to His Highness the Crown Prince? Si looked up in panic in the early morning and saw the angry Crown Prince, followed by the War King. Big brother. Third brother, you all have come. The Crown Prince's eyes were full of blood red, and he said, Sixth brother, come on, I sent Fengguang to your house because your concubine Lin Xiaoru said she could cure Fengguang's lung disease. Now what about Fengguang? Please return an intact Fengguang to me. Si was covered in sweat in the early morning, and he knew that no matter what, Fengguang had an accident at his mansion and he couldn't escape responsibility. He suddenly reached out and pointed at Ye Xiaoxiao. It's her, it's her. It's her who caused Fengguang trouble. At this moment, the crown princess stood up. You said, how did I hear that your concubine's medical skills were not proficient, causing the accident? Lin Xiaoxiao told her about the incident as soon as he arrived at the crown prince's mansion. Ye Xiaoxiao also answered, the King of Jin keeps saying that I harmed the crown prince, but it is Lin Xiaoru who knows medicine. Of course, she is the one who kills people. Xi's eyes lit up in the early morning and he said, how could Ru cure someone to death? The story of Ru saving me back then is well known throughout the city. Her medical skills are extraordinary and she will never kill anyone. Xi Xiaoxiao, do you dare to swear with Lin Xiaoru's life when you say this? Ye Xiaoxiao suddenly drank. Xi choked suddenly in the early morning. Swear with Ruer's life. This he hesitated and looked into the eyes of everyone. The crown prince's expression became increasingly ugly. Ye Xiaoxiao was even more infuriated. He blindly recognized Lin Xiaoru as the person who saved him in the past, and now he is still protecting her without principles. For her to do such an immoral thing to make herself stand up for it. If he knew that the person who saved him back then was not Lin Xiaoru, would that be like this? She looked coldly at Xi Xiaoming and said, Xi Xiaoming, you are so protective of her. Do you really think that she was the one who saved you back then? What if you make a mistake? Xi's pupils contract in the early morning. At this moment, Lin Xiaoru suddenly ran out. Kneeling on the ground with a thud. Crown Prince, it's all my fault. When I was in the Ye family, Sister Ye often pestered me to teach her medical skills, and I taught her some basic medical skills. Later on, she became infatuated with the King of Jin, as if she had a stroke. She kept saying that her medical skills were amazing and even saved the prince. Even this time, I entrusted the crown prince to her care. Unexpectedly, she overestimated herself and treated the crown prince, resulting in accidents. All of these were my faults. I shouldn't have taught Sister Ye medical skills or entrusted the crown prince to her care. Please punish me, crown prince. I am willing to pay for the crown prince's life. After speaking, she knelt on the ground and kowtowed with a thud. Until blood flows down my head. The heartbroken Xi rushed to the ground in the early morning and hugged her in her arms. Ruer, he shouted mournfully. Lin Xiaoru lay in his arms and weakly said, let me pay for the life of the crown prince. After speaking, I fainted directly. Ye Xiaoxiao let out a cold snort. This Lin Xiaoru, every time she says she wants to pay for the emperor's grandson's life, but every time she pushes the blame onto her, it's really tea in heaven. Ye Xiaoxiao, it's Ye Xiaoxiao who caused harm to the crown prince. The crown prince should pay her for it. Xi broke the jar in the early morning and fell. Lin Xiaoru's performance left the crown prince with nowhere to vent his anger. He turned his gaze to Ye Xiaoxiao, his eyes filled with violence. Princess Jin, let you pay for my son's life today. Chapter 6. Tomorrow's Quest and Execution. You are listening at novel-full.audio. Ye Xiaoxiao quickly stepped back 2 steps, knowing that there was no one to save her now. Xi Zhou and Lin Xiaoru turned the tables. It was clear that Lin Xiaoru had a medical accident, but in order to save her life, they kept lying. Put this charge on yourself. Murder against the prince and grandson, that's just one word for death. However, she brought the crown prince to the Jin prince's mansion without any means to protect her life. She shouted loudly, King Jin has turned black and white upside down. Imposing this charge on me, but who is the one who cured the emperor's illness? You know it well, King Jin. It's you. Xi Xiaoru shouted as she hugged Lin Xiaoru in the early morning. Does the King of Jin really think that this matter is completely unfounded? Ye Xiaoxiao said word by word, with a calm expression on his face and no hint of panic. Even Qinglong, who was watching the play on the side, couldn't help but feel surprised. Third Master, this girl is a bit tough. She's on the brink of death, so why don't she plead guilty? Can she still provide any evidence? Si Xinyuan remained silent, quietly watching Ye Xiaoxiao. This Princess Jin did surprise him a bit. On an ugly face, exuding confidence all over. What do you mean by saying that? Si Xiaoming asked. Humph, Ye Xiaoxiao's mouth curled up. There is a person who knows who the crown prince was treating. Who is it? Si spoke sharply in the early morning. Emperor Taishan himself. Ye Xiaoxiao shouted loudly. What are you saying? Si Xiaoming felt unbelievable. Can she still let the soul of Emperor Taishan prove it to her? Lin Xiaoru's eyelashes trembled as she lay in Si Xiaoxiao's arms. In fact, she pretended to be unconscious. Only by pretending to be unconscious can she escape the punishment of the crown prince. Only then can Ye Xiaoxiao bear all the blame. Just at this moment, she didn't understand what Ye Xiaoxiao was saying. It is true that the crown prince died from her, but no one can prove it. If the King of Jin is devoted to himself, of course, he will not prove it. What does Ye Xiaoxiao mean by saying this? The crown prince's pupils also trembled and he said, Ye Xiaoxiao, you'd better speak clearly. Ye Xiaoxiao raised his head and said, I said the crown prince will personally tell you who cured him of his illness. Everyone was shocked. I saw Ye Xiaoxiao lifting his hand. I clapped my hands in the air several times. Lan Fang was in the center, and the deceased Emperor Taishan was walking step by step towards the outside. He is small in stature, with a smile on his face, and his right hand extends slightly outward, as if holding something. Ye Xiaoxiao smiled as she had long realized that Emperor Taishan had not actually died. He was just suffering from a lung disease, combined with improper treatment by Lin Xiaoru, which led to a lack of breath. Ye Xiaoxiao gave him a few minutes of cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and he woke up. The crown prince saw his son appear alive in front of him and rushed forward, hugging the little child. Fengguang. You're still alive. Father. Fengguang called out. The crowd in the venue widened their eyes in shock. It's not that Emperor Taishan died, isn't this still alive? What is the Jin family up to? Si Qinyuan also squinted his eyes. Si was even more shocked in the early morning. Emperor Taishan is still alive. That is to say, Ru'er did not kill the crown prince. Lin Xiaoru flipped out of Si Xiaoxiao's arms and was shocked to the point where she couldn't speak for a moment. There is clearly no breathing. How could it be? At this moment, her emotions were very complicated, grateful that the crown prince had not died, and grateful that she didn't have to worry about things being exposed all day long. On the other hand, she also had some regrets and could not accuse Lin Xiaoxiao of offending her. What exactly is going on? The crown prince looked up and asked. Emperor Taishan was buried in the crown prince's arms and spoke with a soft voice, it was that ant who treated me poorly. He pointed to Lin Xiaoru. Lin Xiaoru's body trembled. This little rabbit. Then, Emperor Taishan pointed to Lin Xiaoxiao and said, it was that sister who saved me. The truth is revealed. Si Xiao and Lin Xiaoru both turned pale. Qinglong, who was watching the play on the side, found it interesting and joked, Third Master, why do you say this child is called aunt of the Jin prince's concubine and sister of the Jin prince's concubine? Isn't this treated differently? Haha. Si Qinyuan's sharp gaze lingered for a moment on Lin Xiaoxiao's face. Ye Xiaoxiao noticed his gaze. I raised my eyebrows and eyes at him. Si Qinyuan. After listening to the words of the crown prince's eagle-like eyes swept over the people waiting for him in the early morning, saying, King Jin, what did you say? Si's early morning gaze was gloomy and uncertain, and for a moment he didn't know how to defend himself. He could only say, what the child said. Are you saying that Brother Feng is lying? The crown prince's voice rose in vain. Isn't it okay, brother Feng? Si said in the early morning. Lin Xiaoru immediately said, there was a misunderstanding, everything was a misunderstanding. Feng Guer is fine, so there is no misdiagnosis. At that time, Sister Yi took away the crown prince, and we all thought something had happened. Lin Xiaoxiao snorted coldly and said, oh, now it's a misunderstanding. When you arrested me and asked me to take responsibility for you, why didn't you say it was a misunderstanding? Lin Xiaoru, you really make sense of everything you say. Lin Xiaoru's face was gloomy, her palms tightly clenched. Si's expression was displeased in the early morning and he said, brother, since brother Feng is fine, don't worry about the twists and turns. If brother really wants to give brother Feng an explanation, we might as well go to father's place to reason. At this point, everyone knows that Lin Xiaoru made a mistake in treating the crown prince and wanted Ye Xiaoxiao to take responsibility, but Ye Xiaoxiao was lucky enough to save the crown prince. No one is guilty of this matter. As for Lin Xiaoru, Si Xiaoming was determined to protect her to the end. Since brother Feng is fine, the crown prince doesn't want to bring the matter to the hands of his father. However, this matter could not be abandoned like this. He glared fiercely at Lin Xiaoru. This grudge has been formed. Lin Xiaoru was startled by the crown prince's gaze and trembled for a moment. Si Zhou hugged her tightly, expressing with her actions that he would protect her to the end. Father, my sister saved me, you have to give him a reward. Feng Gu looked up and said. The crown prince laughed heartily as he looked at his son's innocent expression. He looked at Ye Xiaoxiao and said, Princess Jin, tell me what reward you want. Ye Xiaoxiao was stunned for a moment, but finally clenched her fist and made up her mind to arch her hand, saying, Your Highness, I really have one thing to ask of you. If your Highness can help me, then I will cure the crown prince's lung disease. Within a year, if you have any task, I will definitely do it for you. Can you really cure my son's illness? The crown prince asked. Feng Guo's lung disease has been treated by several imperial physicians, but there has been no improvement. I wanted the Jin King's concubine to give it a try, but ended up with such a thing. A promise is worth 1,000 gold. Ye Xiaoxiao said solemnly. Okay, do you have any requirements? Tell me. Ye Xiaoxiao remained silent for a moment. When the original owner's soul left, he requested several things from himself. One was to let Cizeo know the truth, and the other was to save the maternal family. I took control of her body, agreed to her request, and kept my promise. Now, what urgently needs to be saved is the cousin who will be beheaded tomorrow. I would like to ask the crown prince to help extend my cousin's sentence by 1 month. My cousin has committed the crime of colluding with the enemy and will be executed tomorrow, while my grandfather and his family will all be sent to the border today. In the original owner's memory, the eldest cousin doted on her the most from a young age, always bringing her anything delicious, and always reluctantly satisfying any demands she had. Even if it goes against his principles, he will compromise for her. She doesn't want him to die, even though he's such a good cousin. However, as soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces changed. The crown prince's face is not very attractive either. Ye Xiaoxiao's heart sank as he watched the situation. Is it really so difficult? Chapter 7. The Prime Minister's Humiliation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After pondering for a long time, the crown prince finally burst into laughter and said, Okay. If you ask me to help you pardon your cousin's charges and save his life, I really can't do it. But can we postpone it for a month? Ye Xiaoxiao, you are really sick. Kai Chichuan has committed a capital crime. What's the use of postponing? It's just making him more afraid for a month, Si Xiao sarcastically said. Close your stinky mouth, Ye Xiaoxiao shouted at Si Xiaoxiao. You. Si Xiaoming was angry. Then he sneered, Oh, what's the use? Your grandfather's family is about to leave the city now, isn't it? Ningguta has enough for them. Prime Minister Kai is over 80 years old, and I don't know if this elderly body can withstand the hardships on the road. I know that the escorted officers and soldiers will fight against the criminals. Ye Xiaoxiao, if you have the ability, you can save all your grandfather's family. I heard that there are still children who haven't weaned on the road. I don't know if they can survive on the road. TSK, it's really miserable. How pitiful. Xi's tone in the early morning was filled with schadenfreude. When Prime Minister Kai was in court, he often scolded him, and for his marriage to Lin Xiaoru, Prime Minister Kai often accused him. The fall of Prime Minister Kai this time was truly heartwarming. He no longer had to worry. Listening to Ye Xiaoxiao's words, Ye Xiaoxiao's chest swelled with anger and she clenched her fists. This Ye Xiaoxiao really knows how to sprinkle salt on people's wounds. Yes, she really can't save her maternal family now, but she can make their journey more comfortable. With this in mind, her gaze flickered and she bowed to the crowd, saying, "The matter with the Crown Prince has been resolved. Thank you very much for helping me with the turnover. I will thank you on behalf of my cousin. My maternal grandfather is going to have sex today, and I want to go see them off." The Crown Prince naturally speaks well. Si Qinyuan also looked at Ye Xiaoxiao with some admiration in his eyes. Since Prime Minister Kai fell off the horse, the people in the court have been cautious and safe, and no one wants to get involved with Prime Minister Kai again. Ye Xiaoxiao is not afraid. What are you saying? You want to go see them off? Do you know that you are now the Princess of Jin? Your every move represents the entire royal family. You are not allowed to go, said Si Xiaoming, but he refused. Prime Minister Kai committed a crime, and the civil and military officials of the entire court were eager to distance themselves from him. The people in his mansion even rushed to see him off. What do people think of him? Ye Xiaoxiao was not afraid at all. When you falsely accused me of poisoning the Crown Prince, why didn't you say that I represented the Jin Prince's mansion? I'll tell you. I'll go and make an appointment today. She turned around and went to the horse farm in the mansion, pulling out a sturdy black horse. When Si saw Ye Xiaoxiao leading a horse out in the early morning, he was not in a hurry at all and sneered, "Still leading a horse? Do you know how to ride a horse? Chasing the wind is something you can ride. I bet you can't even get up." Chasing the wind is the strongest horse in his mansion, even he dare not climb it. Lin Xiaoru's eyes showed a hint of disdain. Riding a horse is great, it's better to fall and die halfway. Si Qinyuan also looked at Ye Xiaoxiao. Ye Xiaoxiao's body looked very weak, but the horse she had chosen looked like a fierce one, and unfamiliar people would soon be knocked off by it. Ye Xiaoxiao brought some silver coins to hang on his body. He arched his hand at the Crown Prince, smiled at Si Qinyuan, and finally let out a cold snort at Si Zhou. Grab the reins and flip over to get on the horse. With her agile and graceful posture, she held the reins tightly and leaned slightly down, saying, "Drive." The gentle breeze lifted her clothes and she didn't look back. The horse drove her steadily forward. A cool and spirited demeanor. Not to mention that she has been riding horses since childhood in modern times. Even if she was the original owner, she could still ride horses. Otherwise, how could she have followed her cousin to the battlefield and saved the dog prince? Everyone's faces were filled with astonishment, as the Princess of Jin actually rode away on a horse. The Crown Prince and Si Qinyuan both showed admiration on their faces. Si was furious in the early hours of the morning, and this slut actually rode his chasing wind away. Come back. You come back to me. At this moment, Lin Xiaoru suddenly covered her face and exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my! What's wrong, Ruer? My face is so itchy." Lin Xiaoru began to scratch her face. Thick water quickly seeped out of the face. She grabbed it and the pus flowed all over her hands. Lin Xiaoru's delicate face was full of fear. This is quickly, she remembered when Ye Xiaoxiao was in the woodshed, he had smeared the pus on her face onto her own. Initially, she and Ye Xiaoxiao married into the Jin prince's mansion at the same time. Ye Xiaoxiao's face was too dazzling, she was afraid that the King of Jin would be tempted by it. So he found a poisonous prescription and applied it to Ye Xiaoxiao's face, causing her to ruin her appearance. But now she has planted herself instead. Lin Xiaoru covered her head and let out a scream. Her face. She doesn't have an antidote for this poisonous prescription. What should we do? Don't worry, Xiaoru. I have searched for famous doctors all over the world, and I will definitely cure the poison on your face. Also, I won't let go of that slut Ye Xiaoxiao. On the official road outside the city, a group of people from the Prime Minister's mansion were wearing prison uniforms and shackles, dragging slowly forward. Hurry up. A thin official whipped a woman holding a child. The 3-year-old child was so frightened that he burst into tears. His head, which was supposed to be tied in small braids, was scattered like thatch, and his small face was full of fear. Cry. Cry again and beat you to death. The official shouted angrily with a frown and eyes. The woman hugged the child tightly, her face covered in dirt, and dragged her tired steps. I'll go, I'll go. Then, enduring the pain on her back, she patted the child in her arms and said, "You honor, don't cry, don't cry." The little girl covered her mouth with her little hand, her nose wrinkled, and her grape-like eyes were filled with tears, trying to hold back and not daring to fall. The official didn't stop, still venting his anger. "Humph, you're not obedient. Believe it or not, I drowned that child in the urinal. No one can control a child dying on the road." The woman held her daughter tightly, and the child trembled in her arms. "Don't scare the child," an old but majestic voice rang out. In front of him, Prime Minister Kai, whose beard was already half white, although his hands were shackled, his waist and back were straight. He glared angrily at the officials, but there was still the lingering power between his eyebrows and eyes. The official lifted his whip and said, "Oh, you still consider yourself the Prime Minister under that one person and above 10,000 people. You are now a prisoner. Do you understand? If the young master asks you to kneel, you must kneel. You want me not to hit the child, right? Kneel down and I'll spare this child. Why don't you kneel, right?" The whip of Pa had already hit the old man's face, and a bloodstain instantly spread across his old and resolute face. The muscles on Kai Luchen's face trembled, and his chest kept rising and falling. He spent half his life in the army, his whole life serving the country, and eventually ended up being bullied by a small soldier. The official, however, did not intend to let go. He felt a different kind of pleasure as he watched the former Prime Minister, who was far away and high up, collapse in front of him. "If I want you to kneel, you have to kneel. Don't kneel, right? You watch." The official had a grim expression and reached out to grab the child in the woman's hand. "See if he doesn't fall this child to death." The woman showed fear in her eyes and tightly hugged the child in her arms. "If you don't kneel, I'll fall and kill her. Do you kneel or not?" The official threatened fiercely. "You." Prime Minister Kai's angry beard trembled, his chest heaving violently. Chapter 8. Ye Xiaoxiao Saves People. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The woman gritted her teeth and held on to her daughter tightly, her eyes tearful and her chin trembling. She knew her resistance was useless, how could she resist the official position? She looked at her father.In.law and suddenly felt a huge sadness surge from her heart. She was the daughter of a merchant and fell in love with the youngest son of Prime Minister Kai's family. The Kai family did not despise her lintel, and after entering the Kai family, they respected and cared for her. She really considers herself a part of this family. Last year, her husband died on the battlefield. Now, the entire Kai family is in exile, and she is prepared to endure hardship with the Kai family without any complaints in her heart. But the child is still young. You tell me, do you kneel or do you want this child to die? The official looked at Prime Minister Kai with a grimace, looking at the once lofty Prime Minister, to see if he would choose the child's life or his own dignity. Prime Minister Kai's body trembled and his teeth clenched with a gurgling sound. Throughout his life, he had never lowered his head to anyone. But now, it's related to Xiaoyuaner's life. Xiaoyuaner is only 3 years old, will she die here because of her grandfather's self-esteem? He slowly bent his knees. A generation of heroes, dedicated to their country for their entire lives, must fall into the hands of villains at this moment. All the Kai family members were red-eyed when they saw this scene. "Dad!" The woman shouted wildly, "Don't kneel. My father.In law's lifelong dignity." She closed her eyes and kissed the child's forehead. "Your grandfather stood firm all his life and would never yield to petty people." She slowly released her hand. The child was grabbed by the official and cried loudly in fear. Prime Minister Kai's pupils contracted. At this moment, a stone came breaking through the wind. Directly hitting the official's hand hurt and he released his grip on the child. The woman quickly hugged the child and pressed her head tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Who hit me?" The official looked around at his reddened hand. Soon, another big stone hit the official's head with a loud bang, and a big lump immediately appeared on his head. A pile of stones fell on him one after another, causing him to scream in pain. Ye Xiaoxiao rode a black horse roaring towards her, throwing stones at the official, and dust surged behind her. When she approached Prime Minister Kai, she dismounted and knelt on the ground, saying, "Grandpa." Prime Minister Kai's eyes were filled with tears. "Xiaoxiao, why did you come?" Eyes were fixed on her one after another. "Xiaoxiao, go back quickly. It will implicate the King of Jin," someone in the crowd worried. Ye Xiaoxiao looked at these people. Auntie, uncle, Aunt Lu, Auntie Xiao, Yuer Xiao, Yener Yen, a 6-year-old child, a 3-year-old child. Memories of these people's past kindness towards the original owner come to mind. They are currently struggling to protect themselves, and they still want not to implicate themselves, to implicate the King of Jin. Ye Xiaoxiao's eyes couldn't help but become moist, such good family members. "What kind of person are you?" the official shouted with a whip. Ye Xiaoxiao stood up and glared angrily at the official just now, walking step by step. The official was frightened by this gaze and trembled, like a demon walking out of the Yanluo hall. Ye Xiaoxiao snatched the whip from his hand and used all his strength to swing it towards the official with 2 strokes. 3 times, 10 times. The official was beaten up and fled like a mouse. He never imagined that there would be anyone who dared to vent their anger on these exiled criminals. Detective, until the arrival of another official, he shouted, "Stop. This is the head of the prisoner being escorted." Seeing his subordinates being beaten, of course, he is furious. "What kind of woman are you? Dare to act wild here," shouted the official. Ye Xiaoxiao put down the whip in his hand, lifted his head, and said to the official, "I am the Princess of Jin, the 3rd-rank official of the Great Xia Kingdom. What crime do you want to punish me for?" After the incident involving the eldest cousin, the Prime Minister and his family were exiled, and the Emperor showed mercy. However, his daughter, who was married outside, was not implicated. Her status as a princess is useful. Sure enough, the official bowed and said, "Even if it's the queen, you can't beat the officers and soldiers recklessly. Even if you sue the King of Jin, the queen won't pay attention." Ye Xiaoxiao's eyes flickered as she tried to suppress the King of Jin. But this official doesn't seem like a confused person. She approached and slowly said to the official, "I see that you are well organized and at first glance intelligent. I want to ask the official something." The official said, "May I ask, Princess? It is said that accompanying a ruler is like accompanying a tiger, do you know why?" The official thought for a moment and said, "That's because the emperor's heart is unpredictable." Ye Xiaoxiao smiled and said, "Since the official knows this truth, then think about it. If the Prime Minister is in this difficult situation, what if your heart changes? What if he remembers the Prime Minister's kindness? Are you sure that the Prime Minister will not be reused one day? Upon hearing Ye Xiaoxiao's words, the official's face changed. Ye Xiaoxiao continued, I have already begged the Crown Prince for a month to extend my cousin's sentence. Within this month, I will think of a way to save him. If he is really released, what do you think of these people in the Prime Minister's office? A month. Yes, you can ask someone. The official's face changed dramatically. Yes, he didn't expect it. Ye Xiaoxiao continued, although the Prime Minister was exiled, he had once held a high position and could not compare to ordinary criminals. Not to mention what the emperor would do, my grandfather had countless disciples under his command alone. Which one could you offend? If you humiliate him here, you are not afraid of one day of being punished. The official's face completely changed. As the saying goes, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. With so many years of connections as the Prime Minister, if anyone really can't stand it, Ye Xiaoxiao saw the official's gaze change and knew he had listened to his words. She continued, of course I know. You don't know about humiliating the Prime Minister, it's just that the people under your command don't understand the rules. It's that official who wants the Prime Minister to kneel down. Ye Xiaoxiao pointed to the thin monkey-like official just now. The official's eyes rolled and he immediately understood. He turned his head and shouted angrily, someone, the skinny monkey insults the prisoner, hit the 20th Army staff. Ye Xiaoxiao continued with a cold face, officer, not dying is not enough to appease the people's anger. Her meaning is very clear. This person who insults the Prime Minister will die, and if she is still alive, she will never give up. The skinny monkey heard it from the side, his face turning white. He just wants to humiliate the former Prime Minister and fight with a military baton, why should he die on his own? Watching his superior's gaze fall on him, his legs tremble and his pants wet with fear. Okay. Just listen to the Queen, kill, said the official. The skinny monkey suddenly fainted and died on the ground. Ye Xiaoxiao breathed a sigh of relief. After this incident, no official will abuse the Prime Minister's family again, and they will safely reach the Daning ancient pagoda. Ye Xiaoxiao said, let me have a few words with my grandfather. The official is naturally accommodating. Grandpa, Ye Xiaoxiao approached Prime Minister Kai. Chapter 9. Shame of Zhou Fengguang. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Prime Minister Kai looked at Ye Xiaoxiao with a look of pity in his eyes. He looked at Ye Xiaoxiao's face and said sorrowfully, Xiaoxiao, your face. Xiaoxiao has been pampered since childhood and always uses the best skincare products at home. It was only after marrying into the Jin Prince's mansion that she became like this. He feels heartbroken. The most important thing for girls is their appearance. Ye Xiaoxiao smiled nonchalantly and said, it's okay, Grandpa. My face doesn't matter, it's mainly you. It's been a tough journey, and there's nothing I can do to help you with. Take care of these silver coins, Grandpa. Ye Xiaoxiao took out the prepared silver and handed it to his grandfather. Prime Minister Kai shook his hands and did not answer. Xiaoxiao, our Kai mansion is already a rebellious and unruly person. If you run over like this without caring, how could the Jin Prince mansion and the Shangshu mansion spare you? Ye Xiaoxiao stuffed the silver into Prime Minister Kai's arms and said, Grandpa, I'm not afraid of them. I saved the young master of the Crown Prince's family, and the Crown Prince promised to help me find a way to delay my cousin's sentence. My cousin still has 1 month left. Upon hearing this, Prime Minister Kai's tears flickered in his eyes. His son, how could he not feel heartbroken? Unexpectedly, Xiaoxiao had a solution. Grandfather, don't worry, I will find a way to rescue my cousin. Or, you must take good care of your health. I want to one day personally bring you back from Ninggu Pagoda. Prime Minister Kai looked at Xiaoxiao, who should have enjoyed being pampered at a flower-like age, but now he had to run around for these sinners. After saying a few words to Prime Minister Kai, Ye Xiaoxiao walked up to the woman who had previously held the child and said, "San auntie. Xiaoxiao, thanks to you just now." The woman looked at Ye Xiaoxiao with gratitude in her eyes. If it weren't for Xiaoxiao, her child would have. Ye Xiaoxiao pinched Yuaner's small face and said, "What are we doing when our own people say these things?" Yuaner raised her smiling face and called out grandmotherly, "Sister." Ye Xiaoxiao smiled and responded. Yuaner's originally chubby little face had also lost a lot of weight. Her usually tied hair was messy, and her small hands were covered in chilblains. Her heart was sore. Aunt San's fate is hard. Uncle San has just passed away a year ago, and now he still takes his child to the bitter and cold Ninggu Pagoda. The adults are just fine. How can the children bear this on the way? Suddenly, she remembered something and looked around, shouting, "Xiaoji." Xiaoji may have followed. The artificial intelligence of her era is already very advanced, basically equipped with powerful motors and speeds comparable to cars. A faint voice came from my ear. Yes. Sure enough, here we are. She took a few steps away and whispered, "Xiaoji, can you help me save that child later?" In an invisible place, a surprised voice came from Xiaoji, "How do you know I can extend?" Ye Xiaoxiao smiled and asked, "How did you hide the crown prince from them?" Xiaoji. Her skin has stretchability, which can be extended to wrap people inside and then use her invisibility skills. At that time, she and Emperor Taishan were hiding under the bed. They looked at it and saw nothing, so naturally they wouldn't dive in and touch it. Ye Xiaoxiao has a clear idea of the extent to which technology has developed. Using Xiaoji's extended skin and invisibility skills can take Yuan air away. Having made up her mind, she approached Aunt San and whispered to Yuaner, "Yuaner, would you like to go with your sister?" Upon hearing Ye Xiaoxiao's words, Aunt San's expression shook and she looked at him incredulously, then her eyes filled with ecstasy. Can Xiaoxiao take Yuaner away? If a 3-year-old child follows them for such a long distance, they don't know if they can live to Ningguta. If we could take Yuaner away. Aunt San's eager gaze turned to Ye Xiaoxiao. Yuaner said, "I want to be with my mother." Ye Xiaoxiao said, "But the road is very difficult, and there are many very scary people. I want to take you away, and when the time comes, let your mother pick you up, okay?" Yuaner hesitated for a moment, thinking of the terrifying official just now, and hesitated to look at her mother. Aunt San excitedly said, "Yuaner, why don't you go with your sister? Listen to your mother." Yuaner just nodded. Ye Xiaoxiao said, "Then don't make a sound when you pass the meeting. I'll have someone take you away." Although Yuaner is only 3 years old, she is also very sensible after experiencing these things. She nodded obediently. Aunt San grabbed Ye Xiaoxiao's hand and said, "Xiaoxiao, do you really have a way?" "Don't worry, Aunt San." Xiaoji quietly approached Yuaner. "Farewell to everyone." Ye Xiaoxiao got on the horse, waved his hand to Grandpa, and rode away. Everyone watched her leave, but no one noticed that the child in Aunt San's arms was missing. Kai Cheng looked at the direction of Ye Xiaoxiao's departure with tears in his eyes, excitement and pride. There is a queen in the Kai family, there is a queen. There are no talented men or women. Xiaoxiao, you really surprised me. The old man looked into the distant sky, sweeping away the tired complexion of the past. His eyes seemed to be refocused with light, and the future was full of hope. Hope is precious hope, brought by his granddaughter. Ye Xiaoxiao was riding on a horse and galloping, while Xiaoji was running beside him holding the child, but still in an invisible state. Yuaner should not appear in front of others. Later, you can go find a kind-hearted farmhouse and temporarily keep Yuaner there. After the matter is over, you can bring her back. Ye Xiaoxiao instructed Xiaoji. Okay, this little sister has a slight injury on her body. I'll give her some medicine later, said Xiaoji. When mentioning the injury, Ye Xiaoxiao thrust her chest and feet again, her space ring. There are all the good medicines from the research institute inside, they are gone. Go back and find my ring first. Ye Xiaoxiao said. I have a medical kit here, and I can take some medicine first, said Xiaoji. Ye Xiaoxiao's eyes lit up and he said, how many medicines are there? Xiaoji. Very few, just a small medical package. Hey, why don't they even get you a space ring? Xiaoji said softly, are you so easy to make a space ring? Of course, I'll give it to you first. In Ye Xiaoxiao's heart, he cursed himself with a grudge. He gave himself the precious ring, but now he has lost it. You slut, how dare you really come into contact with the guilty minister? Come back with me and apologize to the King of Jin. A powerful voice came in. A horse stopped in front of Ye Xiaoxiao. Ye Xiaoxiao looked up and saw Zhou Fengguang, riding a horse with a righteous expression on his face, with a long spear pointing straight at her. Ye Xiaoxiao suddenly pulled the horse rope and looked at Zhou Fengguang with a mocking gaze, you are really a loyal dog of the King of Jin. Zhou Fengguang snorted coldly and said, hurry up and get off your horse. Be obedient and let me tie you up. Go back and apologize to the King of Jin. Otherwise, I will make it difficult for you to eat and leave. The King of Jin asked him to arrest Ye Xiaoxiao, who had contact with the guilty minister, and he must complete the task well. To prevent her from resisting, he brought all the ropes. Ye Xiaoxiao looked at the rope in his hand and said, why do you make me unable to eat and walk around? Zhou Fengguang said with a fierce and evil spirit, believe it or not, I will take you to the brothel. You despicable person. How can you catch up with the concubine by 1/10? You should go to the pickled Zon land to experience it. When you go back, I will give advice to the King of Jin and send you away. Let you see the dangers of the world. Chapter 10. Cheap Selling Zhou Fengguang. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ye Xiaoxiao squinted her eyes and looked at Zhou Fengguang. With Zhou Fengguang's mouth, she really wanted to sew it up for him and take her to the brothel. It's really amazing. Without hesitation, she got off the horse and hooked her index finger towards Zhou Fengguang, saying, I'm down now. If you have the ability, come and catch me. Whispering to the side, Xiaoji, help me, focus on his area. The most vulnerable area. Upon hearing Xiaoji say, don't worry. Ye Xiaoxiao breathed a sigh of relief and looked up at Zhou Fengguang. Zhou Fengguang didn't expect Ye Xiaoxiao to dismount so honestly, but it was a good thing. He dismounted with a spear in his left hand and a rope in his right hand. This is a rope specially given by the King of Jin. The King of Jin said he wants to tie Ye Xiaoxiao up in all sorts of ways. He's all ready. Ye Xiaoxiao watched as Zhou Fengguang walked towards her step by step. When she arrived in front of her, she lowered her body and dodged the rope that Zhou Fengguang wanted to put on her body. Zhou Fengguang's eyebrows furrowed, disobedient. He can't even cure a little woman, he wants to tie her tightly. The kind that can't breathe. With a long spear thrown, the whole person rushed towards Ye Xiaoxiao. Faced with the tall and imposing Zhou Fengguang, Ye Xiaoxiao was indeed somewhat defeated, and soon his hands were cut back by Zhou Fengguang. Zhou Fengguang gave a grim smile and said, still hiding. Do you think you can hide? As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a pain in his thigh and then lost consciousness. Ye Xiaoxiao opened her mouth wide and looked in surprise at Zhou Fengguang, who was lying straight on the ground. She looked to the right. On the left came Xiaoji's voice. I'm here. Ye Xiaoxiao turned his head to the left and said, what's going on? She was a bit confused. Originally, she wanted Xiaoji to give Zhou Fengguang a painful lesson, but why did he fall? Xiaoji said, there is a strong anesthetic in my medical bag for cows. Ye Xiaoxiao couldn't help but want to clap and cheer. Meow ah. Is there anything else? Xiaoji. There's no more, only this one is left. Ye Xiaoxiao felt a pang of heartache, only one. Ah, if only she could find the space ring. With this strong anesthetic, she can say she is not afraid of any danger. Ye Xiaoxiao picked up the rope that Zhou Fengguang had fallen to the ground, grabbed it with both hands, and spun around Zhou Fengguang lying on the ground. Zhou go, aren't you trying to tie me up? Now let's see who binds who. She skillfully tied Zhou Fengguang up and tightened the rope tightly. Zhou Fengguang's muscles were squeezed into pieces by the rope. Afterwards, she dragged Zhou Fengguang on the ground, and the pedestrians on the road cast surprised gazes. Ye Xiaoxiao seemed to have missed it and dragged Zhou Fengguang straight towards a dark alley. The entertainment industry in Beijing is well developed, and there are 2 brothels on this street alone. Behind the street, there is a dark alley where there is another industry. The service personnel inside are a bit special, they are all male. Ye Xiaoxiao stopped outside a small building, with a plaque reading "Entering the Cloud Pavilion." The brothels on the street are all beautiful women, while here are all men, designed specifically for those with special interests of high-ranking officials. Many nobles do not like women and only love men. If there is demand, industry is necessary, and Entering the Cloud Pavilion is specifically designed for this. Of course, there are requirements for men's appearance in all aspects. Ye Xiaoxiao kicked Zhou Fengguang and said, "This week, dog, I don't know if they can take a liking to you." She knocked on the door, it was not open for business here, only people in need came to visit secretly. Soon, a mother wearing a bright red brocade robe with a large mole on the corner of her mouth and wrinkles around her eyes opened the door. Mom glanced at Ye Xiaoxiao, frowned, and spoke in a sharp voice, "What do you do?" Ye Xiaoxiao smiled at the corners of his mouth and said, "Mom, I'm here to sell people. My family is so poor that we can't afford to eat anymore, so we have to sell our brother. Mom, please take a look at how much this is worth and give us some to eat." She pointed to Zhou Fengguang, who had fallen into a coma and was bound up in various ways on the ground. Mom walked out the door, squatted on the ground, turned Zhou Fengguang's face, squinted her eyes, and looked carefully. Zhou Fengguang has a national character face, with a straight and fair complexion. Mom nodded in satisfaction and said, she looks pretty good." Then she reached out and pinched the muscles on Zhou Fengguang's chest, with a happy expression on her face. "Yo, it's not bad." Then, with her arms, thighs, and buttocks, she touched Zhou Fengguang all over her body, her face becoming increasingly satisfied. Nowadays, there are all some delicate men in the pavilion, lacking in such masculine and muscular ones. This is a masterpiece. "Mom, if you like it, you can see the price," said Ye Xiaoxiao, standing on the side with a low eyebrow and eyes. Mom lifted her head and looked at Ye Xiaoxiao, her eyes rolling. Men have never been as easy to buy as women. Young and powerful men would rather carry bags than make a living. Finding a good product is not easy, and the price is not low. Buying such a male prostitute requires at least 200 taels. Mom tentatively asked, "How about giving you 20 taels?" She left enough room for negotiation. Ye Xiaoxiao was ecstatic and said, "Sure, it's enough for our family to eat for 1 or 2 years." Mom's eyes sparkle with joy. "Okay. Deal." When faced with such a big injustice, my mother wanted to quickly close the deal. Ye Xiaoxiao received 20 taels as she had hoped, and with a jolt on her face, she said with joy, "Thank you very much, Mom. It's my brother who knows some martial arts and has some strength. Please give him some careful training, Mom." Mom smiled and said, "Don't worry, if you join our industry, there's nothing I can't teach you. They have plenty of means." Ye Xiaoxiao happily walked away with the silver. Mom watched Ye Xiaoxiao leave with a grin on her face, feeling that she had made a big profit. She quickly had the man on the ground carried into the house. On the other side of the alley, Qinglong patted his thigh and laughed heartily, "Third Lord, have you seen her? She sold Zhou Fengguang for 20 taels. What would Zhou Fengguang feel like if he woke up and found out he had been sold for 20 taels? Ha ha ha, I've never been so happy before. Princess Jin is really talented. Ha ha ha. They had obtained a detoxifying herb from both the Crown Prince's mansion and the Prince of Jin's mansion, and were on their way back when they didn't expect to see such a scene. Qinglong and Zhou Fengguang have always been at odds, and seeing Zhou Fengguang fall into this fate, they happily want to jump up. Si Qinyuan also wore a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. I really didn't expect that the Queen of Jin would use such a move. He coughed lightly and said to Qinglong, go handle it, don't let the King of Jin easily find out about this matter. Qinglong excitedly said, okay. Ye Xiaoxiao came to the street with money and pondered for a moment. Most of the people on this street were high-ranking officials and nobles. Going north for 500 meters, it was a small village where farmers made a living and there were also some small businesses. She handed the money to Xiaoji and said, take this money and go to that small village in the north to find a family. You must be a kind and good family. Find someone who doesn't have children and let them take care of owner for a period of time. Owner is not suitable to appear in front of people now, so it is still important to be cautious. Xiaoji nodded and said, okay, I understand. Ye Xiaoxiao is still at ease with Xiaoji. Xiaoji should have a facial analysis system that can conduct a basic analysis of people's personalities based on their facial features, and can find the most suitable adoptive family for owner. After finishing these, she rode her horse back to the Jin Prince's mansion. She is penniless now and must go back to the mansion to get some money before finding a way to reconcile with the scumbag. As soon as I stepped into the mansion, I tied my horse and prepared to return to my own Lanfang residence. Si Xiaoxiao had already angrily led a few people towards her and said, Ye Xiaoxiao, you're so bold. Did you make Xiaoru's face? Are you trying to kill her?